Joining me now is Democratic Representative Jake Auchincloss from Massachusetts. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. I want to start with these deleted Secret Service texts. Do you think it's a legitimate mistake, honestly, or is this just a case of the Secret Service once again finding itself in a bit of scandal?
Good morning, Sam. Thanks for having me on. I think the odds of these texts being deleted that day are about the same odds that Comey was audited by the IRS randomly. The fact pattern laid out by the January 6th Commission is a searing indictment. And there needs to be legal consequences for any individual, up to and including the president, who incited insurrection. And there's going to be due process for that. But we've got near-term political action items from this commission. First and foremost, we need to have renewed urgency for passing the Electoral Count Act reform in the Senate and the House so that we can preserve the ministerial role of the vice president and prevent a Mike Pence incident in the future. We have got to have more urgency about these Secretary of State races and gubernatorial races in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania, where you've got election deniers who are going to be in charge of state elections. And finally, and Sam, maybe most importantly, the left needs to stop tearing down Joe Biden. We have seen with the January 6th Commission what the leader of the Republican Party wants to do. The answer to that is not to attack the leader of the Democratic Party. The answer is to help him be successful.
It's an interesting case, I suppose, for the left to take its gloves off with Biden. Do you really think that the criticisms that they should just not critique his policies, or that there's no place for them to express disappointment with the president?
There is always room and indeed the obligation in our tripartite system of government for us to disagree and debate. I disagree with the administration frequently. I've got the phone number of the administration. I call them up. I have productive conversations. I push them in the directions I want. But what I do not do is try to take their legs out from under them. We need to be laser focused as a party on the midterms and on trying to make Joe Biden a successful second half president in the 22 to 24 time span. And the attacks on him from his own fellow Democrats really need to stop, because they are not conducive to helping save our democracy right now.
Let's go back quickly to the committee and its actions and what's surrounding it. Specifically, another development that recently happened was Steve Bannon, who has refused to comply with a committee subpoena, and his trial and contempt charges is set to begin on Monday. Though, he's filed this 11th hour motion to dismiss the case. The committee does have material from Bannon, right? Let me play you a bit of the hearing from this week about what Bannon might have known about the planning around January 6th. Take a listen, and I'll ask you a question on the other side.
The committee has learned from the White House phone logs that the president spoke to Steve Bannon, his close advisor, at least twice on January 5th. The first conversation they had lasted for 11 minutes. Listen to what Mr. Bannon said that day after the first call he had with the president.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's all converging, and now we're on, as they say, the point of attack, right? The point of attack tomorrow. I'll tell you this. It's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen, okay? It's going to be quite extraordinarily different. And all I can say is strap in.
All right, so my question for you is this. On the one hand, it's very evident, or it seems very evident, that Steve Bannon knew something materially important. On the other hand, the likelihood that you're going to get Steve Bannon to cop to give over the stuff that he knows or to speak honestly about it seems not to be 100%. Let's put it that way. So what's the value of focusing on someone like Bannon? And do you think that a lot of resources should be spent trying to get him to testify?
Well, a subpoena from Congress is not a request. It's a demand. He needs to comply with it. And his language in that episode and in all the events surrounding January 6th was clearly incitement to insurrection. We've got a whole clause about that in the Constitution under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It's not legal. And we need to hold to account any individual surrounding the president or in the civil service or in the executive branch who tried to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power, the fundamental norm of our democracy. But to your point, we cannot focus all of our energies on the due process of the legal repercussions. That is clearly one element, but there is a political element here too. Democrats need to have renewed energy about the Electoral Count Act reform, about state elections for governor and secretary of state, about keeping the House so that the gavel does not end up in Kevin McCarthy's hands, and in rallying behind this president to help him be successful with narrow margins in Congress.
All right, Democratic Representative Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts, the great state of Massachusetts. Thank you very much for joining us here on Saturday morning. Really appreciate it. Coming up.